Hello, Good Hope. We come back again to address questions that frequently come my way, the way of leadership, on biblical questions that we have from time to time. A question that came to me recently that is a very common question is, if you've read through the book of Exodus, you would see that it says that God hardened Pharaoh's heart while the Hebrew people were in Egyptian captivity, and then finally God brought the Hebrew people, the future Israelites, out of Egypt. And since God hardened Pharaoh's heart, is God responsible for Pharaoh's heart, or is Pharaoh responsible for that? How do we reconcile those things? To answer that question, I want to go back in time. I want to go back to Genesis chapter 15. Before Abraham's name was Abraham, it was Abram. And I want you to listen to this if you would. It says in Genesis 15, verses 13 and 14, it says, "Then the Lord said to Abram, know this for certain, that your offspring, your descendants, will be resident aliens for 400 years in a land that does not belong to them, and will be enslaved and oppressed. However, I will judge the nation they serve, and afterward they will go out with many possessions." That ultimately was the nation of Egypt. So that is in Genesis 15. Then we come to the third chapter of Exodus, and Moses is on the scene. And so in Exodus chapter 3, verse 10, God is telling Moses, you are going to go to Egypt and you are going to deliver my people, the Hebrew people, out of Egyptian captivity. You, Moses, are going to be the one that goes and does that. However, it's not going to be easy. There are going to be difficulties. And so we see in Exodus chapter 3, verses 19 and 20. Follow along this with me if you will. It says, "However," this is God speaking, "I know that the king of Egypt, who is Pharaoh, will not allow you to go, even under force from a strong hand. But when I stretch out my hand and strike Egypt with all my miracles that I will perform in it, after that he will let you go." So what is going on here? So if we were to read the narrative of all the miracles that God brought before Egypt, we would see that there were 11 miracles. 10 of those miracles were plagues that were given up on Egypt. Now in the first 6 miracles, which would be the first 5 plagues, the Bible is very clear that it is Pharaoh that hardened his own heart. This is 100% on Pharaoh. God is revealing a miracle. Pharaoh wants no part of it. So at each successive step, Pharaoh is hardening his own heart. Only at the 7th miracle, and would be the 6th miracle in the fifth plague. Sorry about that. Did God begin to harden Pharaoh's heart? So God is doing this for a purpose. Why did He do that? Ultimately, He's hardening Pharaoh's heart to bring glory to God, so that the Egyptian people would know that God is God. How do we know that? In Exodus chapter 7, verse 5, this is what God says. He says, "The Egyptians will know that I am the Lord when I stretch out my hand against Egypt and bring the Israelites from them." So, again, 11 miracles, 10 plagues. In the first half, Pharaoh hardens his own heart. Then God allows Pharaoh to run with that. So what we see happening is God turning Pharaoh over to his own hard heart. Do we see that in the New Testament? Yes, we do. And it's in the book of Romans, and it's in the first chapter. And I want to read this to you, then I'm going to tell you the address. But listen to this if you would. It says, "For God's wrath is revealed from heaven against all godlessness and unrighteousness of people who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth." Notice this. We, in our own hard hearts, suppress the truth of God. That's on us. "Since what can be known about God is evident among them, because God has shown it to them. For His invisible attributes, that is, His eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen since the creation of the world, being understood through what He has made. As a result, people are without excuse. For though they knew God, they did not glorify Him as God, or show gratitude. Instead, their thinking became worthless, and their senseless hearts were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for things resembling mortal man, birds and four-footed animals and reptiles. That's the Egyptian God, all of those things. And so God is saying He turned them over. So Pharaoh had a hard heart. God turned him over to that foolishness, and there is no excuse because Pharaoh did it to himself, but Pharaoh got him to the point that God let him run with that. But in the end, when God brought the people out of Egypt, He was glorified because the one God, the Creator God, defeated the millions of gods that Egypt honored.